Hi, welcome to the bathtub. It's the old masturbator. You know me, Scott Bradfield. I masturbate in the morning, I masturbate in the evening, I masturbate all over this town. That's what we do here at the bathtub. And we're doing a very short one because we did kind of longish one on Madame Bovary. This is another thing we're clearing off the stacks. They kind of get too high, and then I try to do them so I can get them off the stacks. This is one of our theme shows called In the Footsteps of Astounding. We read and reviewed and enjoyed Alec Navala-Lee's book about the history of John Campbell and the golden age of science fiction. I don't think it was the golden age myself, but it was a really interesting age of science fiction and his influence. And the three writers who were big powerhouses in the old Astounding magazine. Robert Heinlein, you all know. L. Ron Hubbard, you know, mainly through Scientology. And then Isaac Asimov, the weird and weirdly enjoyable Isaac Asimov. Anyway, I've been over the past since the pandemic, somewhere in the pandemic, I decided I wanted to reread. We talked about rereading a lot lately. I wanted to reread the Foundation series, and I think it starts with the first one's called Foundation. I always get confused by the titles, and these are all published. They came out originally when he was very young. Isaac Asimov was quite young when he published these. Again, don't quote me on anything factual because I just make this stuff up as I go along. But as I recall from the 40s, a lot of these were published as novellas and novelettes and serials in the old Astounding. Asimov was a very young writer at the time, as I recall, and John Campbell had a lot of his ideas. He loved talking up ideas with his writers and getting them to kind of work with him on projects. And I believe Campbell probably had a lot of influence on these three novels. They came out over a period of time in the magazine, and then they were reprinted as paperbacks when the paperbacks started to get big in the 50s. And they became kind of the first trilogy, quote-unquote trilogy, in fantastic literature. You know, we all know the Tolstoy books, but this was a big idea at the time. 3 novels, 1 long story, charting the super future history of humanity in the far future. And it was when I read, I was like 14. I should say this. I was about 14 or 15. What got me into science fiction was not Asimov, but was Ray Bradbury and Walter Miller, that kind of science, and Robert Sheckley. Those are the writers that kind of got me going. But I went out and picked up this series. I remember this exact same series with these really cool, I think that's Leo and Diane Dillon. I'm not sure, but they're brilliant covers. And I remember reading them in like 2 days. Rereading them now, I'm really surprised I could even follow half of the stuff that happened in these books. And one of the things that fascinates me is going back to these books we read when we were young. I probably didn't understand half of it, but I was completely wrapped up in the whole section, the whole idea. You may know one of the things that got me into finishing it, so I've actually read all 3 books in the past few months, is that Apple TV is doing a TV version of Foundation. I tried to get into it. I don't know if I'll keep trying. It's kind of hard to get into, and it's not as good as the book. But one of the things that's fascinating about the book to me is it's not like first of all, we talked about A.E. Van Vogt and the kind of craziness of this far future that Van Vogt kind of just pulls out of his butt. Just makes up these crazy ideas. There's a lot of that influence on Asimov. I think Van Vogt was a big influence, and the kind of craziness of this far future that he envisions. But it's sort of told almost entirely in conversations. So you don't have lots of action scenes like you'll have in Van Vogt, or you'll see in Edmund Hamilton and all those early guys. It's all a lot of people talking over ideas about the future. The central premise of Foundation, of course, is there's a guy named Harry Selving, or Harry. Oh, hell. We don't keep track of most of this stuff here. Anyways, I'm gonna try to get his name. Harry Seldon, but spelled funny, so it's not Hari. And he's a psychohistorian. You all probably know the drill here at this point. And basically, he's created a scientific mathematical formula to predict future civilizations. And some of the predictions are simply things like, when an empire gets too big, the descent within the ranks are too strong to keep it together, so it eventually breaks down. And there's a lot of different rules like this that kind of come to fruition in this future. And this is like somewhere 50, 100,000 years in the future. If the numbers get ridiculous, the entire galaxy has been populated. How the hell that happens, I don't quite understand. And he doesn't really talk about how we get to that far future so much as in this far future, Harry Seldon can predict the future. What he predicts is the end of this gigantic empire. One of the things a TV show does, and I guess the books had in it, is somehow all these futuristic visions are all about basically dictatorships. they're like run by some emperor. There's always an emperor in these things. Anyway, there's some empire, and the fascinating with the story was not the believability of it, but somehow I was totally wrapped up in it. And the first volume is a series of kind of stories about the kind of collapse of this empire and how traders start to slowly bring connections between people. And what Harry Seldon has done is created a series of news alerts that he films while he's alive. And after he's dead, he predicts, 5,000 years from now, they need to hear me say this, 10,000 years. And he has these kind of announcements that show up through the trilogy. It's kind of fascinating. And he tells people where to go. He creates a place called the Foundation. I'm going to give you a quick summary. Foundation, which is supposed to preserve the future of the empire. And then he creates a secret second foundation. He doesn't tell anyone where it is. It's a really crazy idea, but for some reason it keeps working. And no one knows where the second foundation is. And every time there's political issues, they think, well, maybe the second foundation will take care of it. And the entire third volume of the thing, I think it's Foundation Empire, the final volume is really a bunch of different discussions about where is the second foundation and what are they doing? Where the hell are they? And there's lots of answers to where the second foundation is. I won't tell you. There's something about Asimov prose. I've said this in the past. It's kind of clunky. There's something weird about this way he tells his stories, but I constantly find I'm always enjoying him. The second volume is my favorite. In the second volume, there's a guy named the Mule. He's a mutant who comes along somewhere in the future, far future. And he's a mutant. And, of course, Harry Seldon's mathematics can't prepare for mutants and what a mutant can do in this vast landscape of politics and war. Anyway, it's a completely crazy series. I've always kind of wanted to read the sequels to it. I think I tried to read the fourth volume of the series because after Asimov stops writing for a long period of time and writes lots of science books, and then he kind of gets back into science fiction in the 70s and has a pretty good long career of writing lots of more science fiction books. And I never read hardly any of those I don't think I've read any of the late novels, though I read a few short stories. I liked those. But all I'll say is that every time I read Asimov or Van Vogt, those are the two, I don't think these guys are particularly good writers, maybe, but I kind of enjoy them, and they kind of completely carry me on. And I enjoyed rereading these. I don't think I'll reread them again, but I may try some of those later novels, which I suspect are at least worth trying. Okay? Happy bathing. Excellent book. Lots of interesting writing back then, and it still holds up. Okay, stay safe.